Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to EVE Online. In today's video, I want to do a little bit of ratting. I'm living in Sov space now in Providence, and that opens up new options for where to rat, including some that I think are more lucrative. So the site we're going to be looking at today is the Sansha Forsaken Hub. I believe every faction has their own version of the Forsaken Hub, and I think they're all pretty similar. If you live in not Sansha space and have, if I'm wrong, let me know in the comments, please, because I don't want to be giving out incorrect information here. But I believe every pirate faction has their own version of this and that they are all equally farmable. The reason we're doing this is it is really good ISK for the time investment it takes. All of the enemies spawn at pretty much the exact same place. And because of that, we can, with our sniper Dominics, which you've seen me use in videos before, we can just set up here and never have to move around the site to close range or anything. We warp in. You know, the waypoint is pretty close to where the enemy spawns, so we're going to be somewhere between 80 and 120k off our targets here, and we can just lock them and unload. There are 6 waves in this site. So the first 2 waves are going to be battleships and battle cruisers. The 3rd and 5th wave will be battleships and battleships and elite cruisers. So they'll be like the loyal Centis variants that have a lot more armor, but they're still pretty easy to deal with. The 4th and 6th wave are going to have battleships and elite frigates, which are the easiest to deal with, because you can usually get them in 1 or 2 volleys from your sniper drones here. Now you can see we're engaging a little past our sort of most effective range. The drone's optimal is 87.5k with my skills. If you took these omnidirectional tracking links to Tech 2, you could increase their range. I do plan on doing that at some point, but as it is, engaging them around 100k, 90k is close enough to the optimal that I don't see large reductions in damage like this. The great thing about this is all of the battleships are worth more than 1 mil bounty. So this is a fast site to run where you can get a whole lot of ISK really fast. Because a battleship takes, I don't know, under a minute to kill, and that's 1 mil from the bounty. I'm estimating, because I've started running a timer when we warp to the site. I'm going to do the math and find out what ISK per hour we get. My guess is the number's going to be around 60 mil an hour from this. I believe it's the most ISK effective site to run in Sovereignty nullsec, like for anomalies anyway. Sanctums might be more efficient, like Sanctums and Havens, which are the sites larger than this. But to do those effectively, enemies spawn at different ranges, so I think that to actually do those in a more ISK effective way, you would probably need to be like ratting in a carrier or something, like a capital ship. Obviously, if you rat in a subcap and a different site gives you higher ISK per hour than this, again, let me know so that I can stop doing this and do those sites instead. But the great thing about doing this, if you live in Sov space, you see there's like a billion sites here to choose from. In Sovereignty space, if your activity defense multiplier is up, your ADMs, and specifically the military index is up, you get lots of combat sites that spawn. And they will keep respawning in solve space like this. So even after we do this, 5 minutes later, another Forsaken hub will spawn, and we can warp to that. And that will just continue to happen as long as our military index remains high enough. And of course, doing this increases the military index, so it's self-sustaining. So that's the first wave we have there. I'm going to be, at the end of this video, I will be dropping an MTU and doing a cut and then looting this site just to show you the full amount of ISK you get, because the 60 mil number is just my guess from bounties. Loot is a little bit more random, but we'll see what we get from that. The fit I'm using is pretty similar here to what I have used before in videos where I've used the Sniper Dominix. I have some drone link augmenters to get the drone range up to where I want it. I believe it's 114K right now, which is about as far as we will ever need it for the purposes of this site. I have some T1 railguns. They don't add a whole lot of damage, but I'm not doing anything else with the high slots, so I might as well get that small gain. I have omnidirectional tracking links, 3 of them, all with optimal range scripts to get the drone's range up as high as I can. And you really do need... You might be able to get away with using less slots for them if you're running Tech 2 tracking links or like faction tracking links or something. But you're going to have a hard time hitting them at their longer ranges if you don't run, if you don't run enough of them, and that will be a big decrease in damage. That'll make the site a lot slower. I have targeting range script because it doesn't matter, how long my drone range is if I can't target them and tell the drones what to hit. The micro jump drive is more of a panic button for if I do something really wrong and like accidentally warp to 0 or something. That can instantly transport you 100K. Also, this fit I use for dead space sites like the 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, that stuff. And it's very useful for those because you don't get to choose the range that you warp in at. So being able to jump 100K away from the warp in point is really handy. The defenses I have here, reactive armor hardener. You can see that these enemies actually do fully EM damage because this now displays the damage resistance as it shifts. Reactive armor hardeners give you 15% in every damage type. But as you take damage, it will balance towards the damage type that you're taking. So it's giving me 60% resist on EM damage now and 0 on anything else because all I'm taking from these guys is EM damage. I have an EM armor hardener because, again, I'm just taking EM damage. And between those, I have pretty stellar damage reduction here. And for the little bit that does get through, I have a Tech 2 armor rep, which is more than enough for this. And then the other 4 low slots are all drone damage amps, and I know that running like a 4th damage amp, you get almost nothing because of stacking penalties, but I'm not doing anything else with the slot, and I'd rather have a small increase in DPS over nothing. Like the other option is I'd probably be running armor plates, but as you can see, nothing is going to break my armor here, so there's really no point. The rigs I'm running, those I do think that I have Trimark armor plates to increase my survivability. And I also have one rig to increase how fast my cap recharges. Let me actually see what it's called here. Large capacitor control circuit. And sorry, my other rigs are auxiliary nano pumps that increases the repair amount. So again, useful for DED sites. I misspoke when I said they were Trimarks. Now it is nullsec, so obviously where to do this depends on what faction you're a part of in nullsec, what systems are safe for you, where you can just farm like this, because you probably don't want to be worrying about PvP too much while you're ratting. But because it's nullsec, other opportunities do come along as well. We don't have any cosmic signatures right now, but I might be making some videos in the near future about running, maybe the 6 or 7 or 8 out of 10. There is no 9 out of 10, I've learned, for Sansha, or I believe for any faction. Which seems like a weird thing, but that is the way it is. And the 10 out of 10 I cannot run simply because it won't let me in the front gate. You need, I think, leadership 5, I guess. Maybe you need some amount of leadership that I don't have yet in your skills to get through the front gate. And I'm not sure why that is, but it's stopping me from getting through there. Of course, I'm carrying with me 2 different ammo types. Antimatter I'm probably not going to use much, but I have a little bit just in case. Iridium is the main ammo type I use. It's nice and long range and helps me hit them at the distance they're spawning at. And mobile tractor units are for cleaning up the sites. So here we are approaching the end of the 3rd wave. We're halfway through the site already, and honestly we are through the slower half of the site because 2 of the remaining waves have frigates as secondary enemies, and they go down really fast. It's also low intensity enough that if you want to get your 10 daily things for Project Discovery in, you can do that. It's just a little bit of free ISK on top of it. I'm still working my way towards the whatever the Concorde cruiser blueprint is. I forget its name, but because there aren't many ways to get them, it's pretty valuable. Alright, last enemy in this wave. Just pulse the armor rep once. The distance helps us tank quite a lot. Once the battleships get to about 70k, they start doing 60, 70k, they start doing a lot more damage, but we're tanky enough that we could probably handle it for a while, even if we were in range of all of them. By the time they get to their optimals, though, they're mostly dead. Alright, here you see the frigates, and oh good, the drones auto-targeted them. It's nice when the drone's automatic targeting targets the things you want. It rarely happens though, like see now they're going for a battleship instead of the frigates, which are what I want to kill. Alright. And watch how fast this thing goes down. It's 1 wave, 2nd wave gets it. And 1 wave for the other guy. So basically this entire wave is just 3 battleships. The other things are insta-kills basically. And again, how much ISK you make with this will depend a little bit on your skills, since it's really, the higher your DPS is, the faster you can grind through these battleships. Even a small increase goes a long way. I'm doing this with about 760 DPS. But you can get a lot of gains on that. Right now I'm training Large Hybrid Turret 5. After I get that and Sharpshooter 5, you just see my skill tree here, yeah, Sharpshooter 5, I'll be able to Tech 2 my guns, and I expect that that will carry with it a fairly substantial increase in damage. As well as, I believe, an increase in my optimal range, so I may be able to use a heavier ammo type, and that may in turn carry another increase in damage. I'm also researching Amar Drone Specialization 5 to get me a little more damage on my drones. Which actually brings up a good point. I am using Amar drones. I'm using Curator 2s, or Curator 2s, depending on how you pronounce that. The reason being, they deal EM damage, and Sansha enemies are weak to EM damage. I don't have the luxury of shooting into their weakness with railguns, so that's not happening there, since all railguns deal thermal and kinetic. But if you have the choice, definitely deal EM damage where you can. My 760 damage, if I were to do the same amount if I were not firing into their weakness, I would need maybe 1,000, 900 to 1,000 DPS. So you definitely get a lot more value if you pick the right drone type. So to do this, you want Curators. They're the long-range Amar drone. If you are in a different pirate space, if you're shooting, say, Garistis, they have their own weaknesses. You want to look up what those are. I don't know off the top of my head. And you want to get the drones that will shoot into that. So we get our first bounty tick here. It's 18 mil. That's actually a little higher. My corp has taxes, so it was 19 mil in 20 minutes. I'd say that's pretty good for time invested. Pulse the armor rep again. And we'll be done the site before we get our second tick, but I'll probably be cutting the video to go do the loot so that I can show you that. But I'll make sure to tell you what the second tick was so that you have the numbers on it. After this, there's only one more wave. I believe these can escalate into 10 out of 10s, I think. Though it's pretty uncommon from what I've seen. I am also told that they can spawn a faction ship at the end, but I have never seen that happen. So I'm a little skeptical about that. That might be old information. Again, if you can confirm differently, let me know. That my luck's just been poor so far. I also do recommend with any drone boat like this, really, keeping some light drones on you. I really should have these in their own wing. But they're just handy if someone tries to tackle you. Group of lights. I considered having a heavy drone wing as well, with maybe ogres or something, not for this, but just for whatever miscellaneous situations arise. I chose to bring more curators instead. And I'm just going to group these up so that they're less burdensome to look at. We'll call that wing snipers too. But some days the NPCs will feel particularly ornery, and they will make a game of targeting your drones immediately every time. And if you don't pay attention, you can like lose a drone. So I like to keep a second wing of snipers so that if my drones start getting hit, I can switch to a fresh set. And I don't know why. Most days the NPCs only shoot at me. But once in a while I'll have a day where every site that day my drones get insta-targeted every single time and I don't get shot the whole site. I think there's some really weird stuff with how they decide to target. Actually, I'm a little curious. Does a Dominic's have... Interestingly, I maybe shouldn't be using railguns with this. It's what I'm trained for. Like, it's what my skills are there for, so it's still going to be my best choice. But since Dominic's doesn't actually get a bonus to railgun range or damage at all, maybe I should switch to an ammo type that can shoot EM at these guys. I never thought of that until I went through this process out loud like this. But I bet I can get something a little more effective. I'll have to look up online later what guns deal EM. I think it might have to be the lasers. I'm not sure. I'm not sure too much what damage types on weapons are, because I mostly use drone boats. Weapons are kind of an afterthought for me. So here we go. Last enemy of the site. And what I'm going to do while I'm killing him is I'm going to drop an MTU and I'm going to bookmark it. Don't make the mistake that I have made far too many times of forgetting to bookmark your MTU and then losing it. And okay, I actually got an escalation off this one, which is pretty cool. I don't think that's the 10 out of 10. Fleet staging point, I think, is not a DED complex. It's just its own thing. It is pretty close, so first I'm going to head back to station. Then I'm going to look up what that is. But I'm going to cut here and take you straight to looting this. So, see you on the other side. Okay, welcome back, everyone. A few things happened during the cut. I did, just to kill time, go run another site, but I made sure to wait until we had the bounty tick from the last site before doing that. So the total number from that, we had a 7.6 mil tick. So that's a total of 27 mil from the bounties we got from that site. You see a bookmark I made for the second Forsaken hub we ran. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. Hopefully this MTU has now had time to do its job. So I'm going to warp over here. Coming in a Noctis, and we're going to pick up the loot and then salvage all the wrecks. So the the site as a whole, I believe doing it took us about 25 minutes. and then looting this is going to take us about another 5, so I think it's safe to say we can do about 2 of these per hour. So whatever ISK we get from this, we'll double it, and that'll be our ISK per hour. Unfortunately, it seems like we're still grabbing some of the wrecks, but I'll handle that. I'll just start looting here, and as I salvage, hopefully by the time I'm done, we'll have most, if not all, of the wrecks. I probably should have left it a little bit longer. You could, when you're doing this, I'm just setting up everything here. When you're doing this, you could, if you chose, use your micro jump drive to get like kind of in the center of where everything died after running the site, and that would probably make this MTU work a little faster. I don't really mind, running a bunch of sites, dropping a bunch of MTUs, and coming back a couple hours later to do all the looting. But in this case, I wanted to record this video pretty quickly, so I came back as soon as I could. I'll just leave this inventory window up so you can see the loot coming in from the salvage. Of course, this will all be T1 salvage. It's nothing special, but it's a little bit extra. I think it's a little bit faster ISK than running another Forsaken hub. Also, it's nice to break up the monotony. If you're just running one type of site, that could get pretty boring. I'll do a stack all here every once in a while. I'm pretty certain we're going to run out of wrecks to salvage before we run out of, before it's finished collecting all of those. The nice thing, though, is that a lot of these are battleships, and they give quite a lot of salvage, even if the specific type of salvage is not anything special. I also want to make a few videos in the future about, like, relic sites, because they have some really good loot out here in Providence. And everywhere else, for that matter, but I heard from a streamer, I forget who, that Providence relic sites, actually I think it might have been from my one friend who lives in a wormhole, that like relic sites around Provi, the Sansha ones, have slightly better loot than others. Just like what they drop is more in line with the valuable stuff that you can get from those, the valuable T2 salvage. Do another stack all here. You see, so far we've gotten 4 mil in salvage. That's not bad. Unfortunately, we are fast running out of wrecks. By which I mean we are completely out of wrecks. So I'm going to do another jump cut here. Actually, no. We'll just loot this and estimate the rest. Okay, so 4 mil in loot that we picked up from the MTU. This gives us 8 mil total. My guess is with the remaining wrecks, we'll probably get another 1.5, 2 mil. So we can say about 10 mil in loot from the site, and that's pretty normal for these. Sometimes you'll have a site where there isn't much good loot at all. Sometimes you'll get a site where there's a ton of it. The best thing you can get is, I think it's called an IFAA damage control unit. It's a damage control unit that can be used by people who haven't trained for the T2 damage control, and which is almost as effective. So it sells for like 1.5 mil, and I've seen sites where like 3 of them have dropped, and that's always really nice. So anyway, I'm going to cut this video here. Hopefully you all enjoyed it. Hopefully you're able to run these on your own. Let me know if you found a better site for subcapitals to run for ISK. Just the final number here, if we assume each site gives us about 10 mil in loot, which I think is a safe assumption, plus 27 mil in bounties, we end up with 37 mil per site. You can run 2 per hour, so that is 74 million ISK per hour on the average. So I'd say that's pretty good numbers for something you can just do in a battleship and can do repetitively. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I will see you in the next video.